Yeah.
All right, so we'll probably get going good here in about 3 minutes, but I guess we can just kind of chit chat for a little bit and talk. How's everybody doing? Are y'all getting a bunch of rain over y'all's way?
Caleb, how's your stuff look out there?
So we got 4,000 acres of beautiful corn and 2,800 acres of a disaster.
Really?
Mm.
So too wet?
Yeah, we didn't get it all planted. We just gave up. It's too wet today. We've had unbelievable rain.
So
Uh,
did you PP all those acres?
no, just 60 of them. We planted beans last Friday. Replanted
Really?
beans. Yeah, I think we're replanted
Hmm.
out of the 2,800, 1,500, 1,800. So just it's been a struggle,
And
but we
and,
got a
and
really
going
good.
going into that, all you're doing is saving face and losing money.
Yeah.
Like I mean, done that too many times.
The
It's a
corn looks
nightmare.
good. How's your crop?
Kind of the same way. It's kind of all over the place. What we got planted early looks really good. What we ended up planting in the middle there, kind of it's not rough by any means, but it's like it's just not there. And now it's those same acres, it's too wet, and that crop, the stage that it's at, it can't handle that wetness. So it's kind of the same. I mean, we got 3,000 acres of corn in, and probably 2,000 looks fine, and there's 1,000 that looks like ugh. I mean, it looks okay, but it's not gonna be a tremendous crop.
Right.
All righty, well, I guess we'll go through this and kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today. So, where I'm going to introduce everybody and we're just going to kind of check in and see how everybody's crops are doing, kind of like what we were just already talking about, and see how everybody's using Holganix and what kind of practices they're doing. And then towards the end, we will open it up for questions. So first off, I'm Cali Whitwell. I'm out of Northwest Tennessee, and I work for Holganix Midsouth. I've been with them for a few months now, but I've worked with this farm with Kaleb for quite a while. And so I'll just kind of go through the list and let Temple Rhodes introduce himself, and then we'll just go down the line.
So I'm Temple Rhodes. I live here in Maryland. Little small state, but we sit on the eastern shore of Maryland. It's kind of like the mini Midwest, really, here in the Delmarva area. So I guess the way that we farm, we have a nutrient management practice that we've been they kind of mandated on us 25, 27 years ago. So we have to farm around all of that. So it's been kind of it's been until the last few years where we have stuff that we can work with Organics and some of the other things and some of the new technologies. It's been a rough shake for us in the Delmarva, being limited to fertility, that kind of thing. So now we're finding out that we can break loose some of this fertility. Some of these tools that we have nowadays has become kind of a major piece to the way that we play this game.
So, Callie, I'll pick up from there. Kind of the same thing as Temple. We've been farming a long time, and no doubt we need fertility to raise crops, but we've learned that we weren't getting the bang for our buck, and started with Organics in 2019. It's been on every acre for a few years. Um, it's just something we've been doing. It's at the top of our input checklist, and so we're here with Hoganix Mid South, and been using the product, and been through a lot of crop adversities, and we just as we continue to improve our soil health, we just see a better ROI.
Caleb, how long have you actually been using Holganix on your farm personally?
I think I bought my first tote in 2019.
Okay.
I think I was on half the acres in 20 and all the acres in 20 since 21.
All righty. Josh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, my name's Josh Thurman. I'm an agronomist covering probably 70 to 100,000 acres, and I also a production hay farmer for the equine industry here in Southern Kentucky, putting up 15, 20,000 bales of hay. But that's about the extent of it. But the acres in which I'm using Holganix on our hay farm and what I'm consulting on, there seems to be quite a bit of buzz about it. The growers seem to be excited about it, seeing more mucilage out of the roots there, out of the crops we're growing here on the hay. Though, we've had a really wet year, and on orchard grass production, you'll see a lot of rust on that. Usually, they kind of deem your crop kind of worthless and relegate it to that of round rolls. But we're seeing a lot of resiliency out of it, out of our crop compared to the neighboring crops. That's something I've been pretty excited about. And as far as the practices on the guys I'm able and blessed to consult with, what they're seeing as far as production practices where they've used that, as Temple alluded to, breaking off that the fertility has quote unquote been bound up. It's allowing them at a 370 corn market, maybe not stare down profitability, but staring down at least break even, because they chose to use that route instead of $100 to $125 an acre fertility cost. So, it's bridging the gap for some guys down here. And if you can keep farmers in the, and just keep them in the game, man, in the ballpark right now, then I'd say that you're doing something right. That's about all I got for right now.
All righty. So we will go on to Morgan and her dad, Mr. Steve. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Morgan Shackelford. I'm a soil health specialist with Holganix, the corporate here in the Midwest. I work mainly in central Missouri. I get to help a lot of farmers, but I got introduced through Holganix through my dad here and tractor pulling. So I'll let my dad introduce himself.
My name's Steve Shackelford. Yes, she's my daughter. We kind of just getting started with the Holganix program. I think we did our first acres in 2024, the fall of 24. And then we're all acres this year, I believe. Maybe a couple farms that we don't have in, but we're just kind of getting on the front end of this thing. We are seeing some definite changes in our soil. I'm anxious to do some soil testing on my own compared to what we've grid sampled in the past, so I can see if things are becoming more available. But right now, things look really good, and we're excited about the whole program.
All righty. Well, thank y'all for those introductions, and I guess we're just gonna dive off into it. So we've kind of talked about it a little bit, how the season's going. So in Northwest Tennessee, I know our biggest issue and obstacle right now is the weather. So how is that over in Missouri, Morgan?
So we've got a lot of rain here in Missouri, and I know people have gotten a lot of crops in late. So I'll let my dad talk about what has happened on our farm and how it's kind of benefited us and set us back at the same time.
We're in a unique spot here. To the north of us, no more than 20 miles, those folks would say they're in a severe drought. On Kansas City weather, they'll show the drought monitor, and all along the north side of I-70, those folks are in a drought. 20 miles south of us, there are literally thousands of acres not been planted yet, or replanted, or look a poor stand. And so what that relates to right here where we're at, it's just been slightly wet and almost perfect. That's how I would describe it.
I gotcha. So Temple, in your neck of the woods, what is the weather looking like? How are you facing that?
So we started out the year where the crop kind of went in pretty quick. For the most part, we got the first 3/4 of it planted fairly fast, and then the wet weather kind of came in. And what we've seen here, it changes like the program that we did. We did the whole program with the breakdown product, and then we came back in after the planter, and then we put on the other product as well. So what we're seeing is like when it changes the tilt of the earth, it not only gives you more water holding capacity, like when we were trying to get through, we had some dry times there, and it seems like that crop doesn't get affected as badly as what the other farms do, where we haven't had it at. And then where we see it like really seem to help at is like where we get these wet spots in the field where it's too wet and you get these yellowed out spots in the bottoms. We're not seeing that this year, and we see it on neighboring fields. And I'm wondering, like, I'm still trying to be not skeptical, but I am, farmers by nature are skeptical anyway. So what we're finding is like I feel like that it's changed the tilth of the earth or of our soil enough that yes, we have more water holding capacity, but it's also letting these areas in the field actually breathe. You get all that weather and it kind of crust over the ground, and you get this massive amount, and you get your soils end up getting anaerobic, and you get that sour smell and that sour feel, and the crop just knows it and it shows all these signs. Well, we're not seeing that this year. So I think that, this is a really true benefit to us as farmers, whether you got dry land or whether you have irrigated. When you fight these situations, I think that could potentially be a game changer.
Oh yeah, I know I've walked a lot of fields of treated versus untreated, and that is one thing I've noticed is how it retains water. Your organics, your treated side versus your untreated side. When I'm doing root digs, it's a lot easier to dig up those roots. The ground is more moist, it's more soft. That is one thing I've noticed a lot. Josh, in Kentucky, what are y'all experiencing?
Yeah, to piggyback off what everybody else said, we got our corn in pretty quickly. We started anywhere from March 28th and was probably finished by, for intents and purposes, probably around the end of April. But you know what? I'm on a lot of acres and blessed to be on that, so I've got a lot of different practices and a lot of things that I can, lot of things that I can look at by basis of comparison. But I think to piggyback off their points again, there, if we look at the water and the water hold capacity, we have two things there. We have hypoxia, and then that turns into anoxic. So anoxic is lack of oxygen. You have no facultative anaerobes or anything at that point, and nothing's going to thrive. So hypoxia is a lack of oxygen, but you still have facultative anaerobes, and things can. I'm trying not to go off the deep end here. Sorry. Uh, can you hear me? Am I there?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to go off the deep end. So
using your
I'm
big
trying.
words.
No, but what I'm getting at is it appears to me we're bridging a gap from keeping things hypoxic before they turn to anoxic and die. And that's what Temple was saying that he was seeing. Or Mr. Rhodes, I suppose I should say. I'm not that formal with him.
That's all right. You can call me whatever.
But that's what I'm seeing here is like where we're using that. It appears that our water holding capacity is able to perk. It's not sitting there and completely going anaerobic and killing everything out. And that's the things that I've been able to see is the water holding capacity. And I may have saw it to a detriment on 500 acres of wheat. I may have saw it hold so much water on wheat that it actually stole yield on the back end, which look, you're going to bridge a gap and we're going to run into these things. But I've got some tests sent off. And if those tests come back the way that I think they are, then that's where the answer is going to lie. That I was able to hold so much water that it actually was a detriment. Those problems will fix themselves. If you look at regeneration or regenerative ag as a whole, you're going to have those 15 to 20% yield swings on year one, and you get them back on year two. But on corn as a whole, what I'm seeing is, man, I think I have more trichomes there on my leaf. I think that I have better color. I feel like I have a healthier phyllosphere because I have a healthier rhizosphere because those things, that is a transcontinental highway from source to sink there. And I do believe that I'm seeing better crop resiliency, better crop health. I want to be skeptical because I don't want to believe, pardon me, I don't want to believe that a product can be a be all end all. I'm not saying that it is. But at this point in the growing year, given all the stresses that we've had from 95-degree temperatures to quite literally deluges of rains, it appears that it's been a little more resilient than those without Holganix on those acres. And I think a lot of that has to do with on the rain side, is it's keeping the water perking, is helping the water hold capacity there. And I think it's giving us more soil health. It's leading to more crop health overall.
I gotcha. So Caleb, I mean, we're here in the same area, so I kind of know what we've been seeing, but tell everybody else what we've been seeing, weather-wise, disease, insect pressure, anything like that.
Well, first of all, Temple, Josh has a big dictionary in his brain, and
Yeah.
so I did get out of school, but I think I flunked spelling. I'm real sure I did. So it's we we've experienced a lot of the same, but one of the big things, Temple, we've experienced here, and I just wonder if you have. I mean, we've had 5 rain events since April 1, of which one was 15 inches, and I'm gonna say the other 5 have been 5 inches in totally each. So man, that's really hard on your soil health. And Temple, for a guy like you, that you've been cover cropping for a long time, hadn't you?
Yep.
And you
30
still
years.
see the benefit of Holganix with the covers.
Absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing is let me just say this. So we've got 30 years of soil testing because we have to soil test every year according to the nutrient management plan that is mandated on us. So we have a big arsenal of our own soil over 30 years of soil testing. And with cover crops, what does people talk about? You're going to improve your CECs, you're going to improve your organic matter, and your overall soil health is going to be better. That is kind of true. And this is where it gets, a lot of people are going to argue with me that, cover crops are like they want to end up like saying it's the solution. And after 30 years of doing this, I have never seen it bring up my CECs or my organic matter at all. 30 years of data, 30 years. And we're in an incentive program so we plant 100% of our acres in cover crop, and we've tried multiple species. We've tried just cereal grains. We've tried everything under the sun. Is it because of my soil type and our CECs are so low? Maybe. It could be that, but let me just tell you this. So the last 2 years we've had Holganix on our farm, and now that we can truly break down the residue that we have here and we can get it back into the soil profile, now in the last 2 years, now all of a sudden our CECs are climbing and our organic matter is climbing. So 30 years of none or 28 years of none, now 2 years, now it's moving the needle. So in my opinion is like when we have a cover crop and we terminate that cover crop and we're getting ready to put it into play, that cover crop has taken up a lot of nutrients over the winter months, in the fall, in the winter months, and it's scavenged, right? So it's really hard to get that back out. You can't, people want to go out there and hit it with a turbo till and blend it back into the soil profile. That's not the answer. Metal does not do what you think that it does. It does not build organic matter back in the soil. It actually decreases it. So having said all this, I have to go back and I have to believe that adding something like a breakdown product where we can actually break down not only the residue from last year, but the residue that is coming out of our cover crop. And now we're getting it back into our soil in the right form. Now all of a sudden we are building organic matter. We are building our CECs. So it's it's proof that's in the pudding. Like, okay, I got 28 years of data that say nothing. Now I got 2 years that are showing something. Like, so put the science where it is, put the technology where it is. Is this working? 100%.
Temple, I got a question for you. When you started using Holganix, did you change your other practices also, or was Holganix your main changing agent?
I looked at it like, when I first talked to Kaleb about it, Kaleb and I had a conversation first, and then I started talking to the other guys about it. And then when I said that this is going to be part of my program, we tried it on a lot of years last year, or a lot of acres last year, and then we took it to 100% this year. Like that's where we are this year. 100% of our acres are in it. I just added it to what I was already doing. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? I mean, the beauty of it is like, how do you use this? You add it to the situation that you're already in. You don't need to change everything that you're already doing. I ended up putting this in with a pass that I was already doing. So it's just an addition to, I didn't change anything else.
Okay. I was just wanting everybody listening to be able to know like how they can incorporate it into their program already. I guess we will move on to the real world use. We've kind of actually talked about your water retention and different stuff like that, but what results have y'all seen on y'all specific farms? Josh, I know you've walked a lot of acres. What is probably the main thing you're seeing on farms across Kentucky, Josh, as an improvement of Holganix?
Well, I mean, I'll wait to say the improvement because the combines will tell the tale on that. But I mean, I'm looking at it right now as an ROI deal, but as we all should. But you know, I think it kind of speaks to crop resiliency at this point. That's on the fields I have split with it and farms I have split. I think it comes back to crop resiliency, which is what you want to see. You know, I mean, let's be honest. There's a thought we're throwing any biology onto soil, you're throwing salt in the ocean. You know, it doesn't matter the amount you're throwing in there when a teaspoon can contain trillions. It seems like you're kind of salting the ocean there, which that's the argument against it. But the argument for it is simply the results you see. And in walking out there in the fields, you can see resiliency. You can see the thickness of the leaves, which that's a sign of crop health always. That's a sign of zinc availability also with the leaves. So it tells me I'm breaking the zinc away from the phosphate. And it tells me if I'm breaking zinc away from phosphate, I have available phosphate that I had to break away from calcium. So it does tell me that I am having available nutrition that maybe I once was not having. So also look at the bottom leaves and see how many I'm keeping to losing with and without. It seems I have another leaf there at the bottom on corn that I haven't given up yet, that I have with that I've given up with without using organics there. So that tells me that I might be getting better nitrogen retention and better nitrogen use out of it as well. So the next thing is we're peeling back the ears and looking at that. So the test I was doing the other day, looking at those, I averaged, you know, on countless checks, I was about 15.7 without Holganix and about 16.5 to 16.7 with Holganix. So, you know, if that translates into yield, then there's your metric everybody wants to talk about right there, you know.
Yeah, I know me and Caleb on his farm, he left some wheat checks and we've noticed a yield difference there. But personally, when I'm walking fields, the biggest thing I notice is the soil texture difference, the water retention, it just being more moist and softer, easier to dig in, but also the roots. I mean, I've walked corn, soybeans, cotton, a lot of different crops, and the root mass on Holganix products is totally different than your untreated products. Caleb, what do you think? What is your biggest? I mean, obviously, I know my farming guys are going to look at the yields, and us working for organics are going to look at the other things. So, you as a farmer, but also being with organics, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so it's just a reframing of how we farm. It's as Temple said. I think that his 28 years of data, and man, that's great to have all that war chest. I mean, with the way we were farming, are you making an ROI on all your inputs, on your big spending inputs? And you know, I think Organics is teaching us that if you bet on nature, it will pay you back. I'm fully convinced that a lot of what we need is here. It's just bound up by what we've been doing for the last 50 years, and we just need to, you know, change a few practices and add in some no-till and more covers, and but at the same time you still have to put the biology out there. You know, nematodes are an issue in some areas. You know, we have good results on dealing with that. So just plant health in general is where the ROI is at.
Oh, yeah. Morgan, what are y'all seeing over in Missouri?
Yeah, so I guess I'll let my dad speak on what we're seeing in Missouri on his own farm. But what I've been seeing, like you said, Callie, is digging roots on beans and corn, and I get to see a lot of different crops, even a wheat. Root mass is one thing I'm seeing from checks to what we have organics on. It's noticeable. I mean, as soon as you take the plant out of the ground, even cutting down the stalk, you can see the health in the middle too. And one of the big things that I saw last fall was the breakdown. You can walk out into a field that has organics on, and you can break apart those stalks. You can see the white rot fungi tearing down the stalks too. I can see those almost first year. But I'll let my dad speak what he's seen on his own farm.
I'm afraid I would sound like a broken record. A lot of the things you guys have recognized, we're seeing the same thing. Probably first and foremost is soil texture, soil tilth has changed. When we first started using it, we put it on our very toughest fields that were giving us a fit. Black gumbo type soils with just really having trouble getting a root mass to grow and plant health. Those have changed. I've told Morgan, she knows where the field is, where we started. I mean, we've never raised a crop on that field like that before. And with as much rain as we've had, it would have been a disaster. It would have been a yellow, uh, overwatered, stunted, poor plant health mess. So all the things you guys have talked about, Josh and Temple and Caleb, all three, we're experiencing every one of those things exactly the same way here. And we've only been in this really one full year with all acres. We're
It's
pretty
def
excited.
it's definitely like I tell my guys when they do their first application, like don't expect to just see a 20 bushel jump or gain. It is, I say it builds over time and it slowly gets better. But like you said, I always tell my first timers, apply it on your worst fields, which is an odd thing to say because obviously you want to bump those better fields that are already yielding really good. But if you start on those bad fields and you can see the growth, you can see the change, and slowly over time, those fields are going to turn into some of your better fields. Um, Temple, I mean, on the previous slide, you had mentioned that you really didn't make a lot of changes. I know Caleb has reduced some of his fertilizers, and we were like taking away some of our tillage. We've started cover cropping. Talk about that. I know you said you really didn't do a whole lot, but you do your cover crops. So kind of deep dive into that for me.
So we do cover crops, and like I was saying before, like we take the, you have to take it to a new step. Like that the cover crop is going to go out there and scavenge all your nutrients that are out there, and then it pulls it up into that plant. And the important thing is to be able to put that back. So, like I didn't really change a lot of things, and a lot of guys are looking at this thing maybe kind of the wrong way. And I'm going to go down a different angle here. So everybody's like, well, I want it to give me an ROI. I want it to bring up my yield. I want a 7 bushel increase. I want a 5 bushel, whatever that number is. And they want that true investment to be paid back. And I get what they're saying. And it is like the first year that I used Holganix, in my side-by-side checks, I had anywhere from an 8 to 9 bushel advantage on corn. So, does it pay back? Yes, it pays back, but there's a long-term play here. So think about this. So all the areas that we spray, and every time that we're going around the edges of the woods and we're planting or whatever, and you're looking in the woods, how often do you look in the field or in the woods and you see a micronutrient deficiency or a fungus in the woods? You never see it. You never see it. And you know why? Because the biology in that forest is running wild. It's rampant. It's breaking down. It's doing its own thing. And everything that we do out here with fungicides and everything else, we're doing nothing but killing biology. We're throwing salt out there with potassium and all the fertilizers that we put out there, and we're constantly killing our biology. But then we wonder why we end up having a micronutrient deficiency, and we're big on foliar nutrition now, and we're trying to capitalize on that. We're trying to bring the plant back. Well, what happens if we don't have to bring the plant back? What happens if we treat it like that forest is? That forest is doing its own thing constantly all the time, and you never see a micronutrient deficiency in a leaf tissue out there in a forest. You don't see it. And you have very little fungal pressure out there, where you would think that it would be the worst in those areas because it's poor land, it's bottom land, it's weather, it's water laying everywhere, but yet that biology in that forest is taking care of itself the entire time. So it's breaking down all those things. Like in a 200 bushel corn crop, you've got anywhere between, 60 and 80 pounds of potassium left in that stover. You've got 60, 70 pounds of phosphorus left in that stover. We can break that stuff down in biology and put that back. For the last 3 years, I've been on this kind of train that I've been on where I'm putting less and less fertility out there and I'm gaining on the other side. So if I'm not putting out potassium and I'm not putting down a bunch of phosphorus and I'm on this other side where I'm using Holganix to break down the stover to constantly put back, we always talk about, well, it's what the crop takes off, that we're going to always replace what the crop took off, what it took back. Well, we've forgotten about the leftover stover that's out there. And just because you run a disc over it, you're not putting it back into the soil. You have to pull it back into the soil organically with biology. So if you can do that, you can actually truly cut back on your inputs. It's not all about, oh my God, I got 11 bushel increase on it. What happens if it stayed the same? And what happens if we saved $100 on fertility every year? Because that's what it's really about. And that's the piece that people are missing. Now, does that take time for that to happen? Yes, it takes time. I don't think that it's something that we can solve year one, but year two and year three, that's where it comes back. Like I literally have fields that I put no phosphorus and no potassium on at all the entire year. And guess what I have? No deficiencies. It's the same areas that I have Holganix on. So I'm setting myself up to save money and potentially still have the same yield or a higher yield than what I had before. This is a different way to look at it, but it is truly happening. And I know that Kaleb has seen the same things.
Yep. Yeah. It's, so it's amazing. You bring up the forest, and Josh is really the one that brought me up to that. So the forest takes care of itself right here with us driving by it, and we don't even realize it until you really take that pill and think about it. Now the one thing the forest hadn't had is 50 years of our agricultural practices, which nobody's at fault for that. We were just chasing yield. That's what we were trying to do to stay in business. But now that we're learning the power of the biology, it is time to recognize it and use it in the temple.
It's exactly what it is. I mean, and it makes me laugh, right? I mean, I've got a big farm right across the road from my house that's got a couple 100-acre woods there or a forest, and there's no problems in there. We've gone in there and we're talking about logging it right now, and all the timber looks beautiful. The trees are awesome. And then my wife right here in my yard, we fertilize the lawn, we do this, we do that, and the trees are falling apart. She's spraying them with fungicide. We got insects in it. We got this problem. We got that problem. She's spending $1 gazillion in my own yard. And I'm thinking, this is the whole problem. Like literally, this is the whole problem. I can't grow a tree in my yard that I fertilize and I've taken care of like my crop field. But yet I got a forest across the street that has got some of the most beautiful timber in it that you've ever seen. And we've never fertilized it. We've never put fungicide on it. We don't put insecticide on it. Is there a reason why? Yeah, there's a reason why. It's biology.
It's just untouched. And I think that is the importance of what we do at Holganix is it is biological. And I think we're trying to focus on getting back to that untouched type of ground, that balanced fungi to bacteria ratio, getting stuff away from all these not away from synthetic inputs, but reducing those so we rely more on the earth and less on what we've done for the past however many years.
There's something else that, and Kaleb and I had done some of the, been out in the field together where we went out there and we were taking soil samples and we were taking leaf tissue samples, like real time in the field. And there were some instances where we didn't see a big increase in any of the leaf tissue as far as the nutrients go that are in the plant. But what you have to realize is that when you set a plant up like that and you visually have seen differences in the soil tilth. You visually have seen root mass be different. Well, keep in mind, you set up that plant to be something very different. And the fact that it is still got the same available, it still has the same nutrients in the plant as your check. See, because everybody wanted to look at that check and say, oh my God, where we put Holganix on, it's so much better. But what you're not realizing is that that plant is the same as the check, but yet it's a different plant. The fact that it is staying with the same nutrients and the tissue sample looks exactly the same, but yet your root mass is bigger. You have probably 20% more weight in the entire plant. The plant might be doing a little bit better. It's going to average out to be, a few more bushels an acre. Like, the fact that you're doing that and you're still keeping the nutrients and the tissue sample the same, that's pretty incredible to me. And that's the part that people are missing.
Oh yeah. I think we might actually on the next slides. Yeah, Temple, this is some of your like a little case study and just talking about your corn and beans and different crops that you've grown and how your yield has differed over the years. Is there anything you really want to hit on here or talk about specifically?
I mean, not really. I mean, the yields kind of are what they are. I mean, we put these studies out. I replicated over multiple areas. You can visually always see the root mass, and the reason for that root mass is a couple of different things. When you change the tilth of the earth, it just changes the amount of root hairs that we can put out there to make it go and scavenge for more. And everything that we've been doing so far, and I've seen it straight across the board, and Josh made a argument a little while ago that he is seeing, as far as like where he thinks maybe we have too much water holding capacity. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing that. I see where we have the water holding capacity, but yet it allows my ground to breathe, and I'm getting rid of it. So I don't think that I've had a detriment anywhere. And this case study that I have, this is that was 1 year, but I show you 2 years back it does the exact same thing. I've had it in a really dry year, I've had it in a really wet year, and it still shows me the same results time and time again.
I gotcha. I think we actually have one for Kaleb also. Kaleb, do you want to talk about these? It's talking about your different inputs that you had reduced stone and how that affected your yield.
Yep. So, back in 16, 17, 18, we were doing some trials with our DAP, potash, different things, nitrogen. And we were just learning that we weren't making a return like we should be for those kind of investments. And, that's why I bought the first thing of Holganix there in 19. So, as we make a shift towards, sulfated potash, towards litter, and, I had cover crops for the first time this year. And just, as we just keep going down this path, maybe we can really see. So I took on a farm in 97 that had 0.5 organic matter through no-till, double crop. We were able to get that organic matter up to around 2.2 or something. And now we're in the high twos. And so, it's kind of something to think that I could move the organic matter 3% in 30 years, less than 30 years. But with more roots, now we're learning that all your organic matter comes from roots, and the less use of tillage and high salt stuff. So we might can add another percent or two to that organic matter in 5 years or 6 years. So that's the exciting part. But what led me on this is, I just didn't feel like I was getting a rate of return on some of my biggest line items on my P&L, and really had me thinking. And because we weren't getting bigger crops, we were actually just putting more on and getting the same. So here we're seeing we're seeing the opportunity here for some better crops. Now, I ain't gonna lie, this world we farm in, Cali, our soil health, I'd say one of the things that hurts our soil health now more than anything is these huge rains. I mean, you get 15 inches. Temple, you've been to West Tennessee. We're highly erodible.
Yep.
15 inches of rain is tough. Josh, you had that same rain. You know, you're 3.5 hours from me, but that kind of rain really does set you back on your soil health journey.
Yeah, absolutely it does, and that's why I think I saw it too. It's not, well, I wouldn't say it's a thought. I don't think it would preclude Holganix. I think it has to do with it because, you know, when we use it on some wheat, shallow rooted crop, the same reason we're seeing the results on the corn right now. We had the water hold capacity on wheat there on Chad, and all the way up through grain fill, it just stayed so wet that it just pretty much died 2 weeks early, which, you know, we take our lumps as we come. And I think it's important, if we tell a story, to tell it completely in honesty, because the problem with agriculture is everything we do in ag grows dogmatic. And this is one thing I'd like to see not messed up, going through dogma through it, because I do believe the water holding capacity through that is what led to the yields on his wheat. And it wasn't off too bad, you know, considering where his inputs were. He was still as profitable as anybody that made 80, 85 bucks a week, which is what most people bought or made. But getting away from that, the thing about the soil health journey is yes, it's going to be integral to that. The question is, as we go forth in this endeavor and we keep using Holganix, where does the needle go from there? Is how high we can take it. And that's the thing that I'm kind of fascinated by, is if we do increase biomass, below ground biomass, if we do reduce pesticides and fungicides, where can we take this journey to? Like, what can we get away from? How high does that needle go? I think that's pretty exciting, because we've taken it as far as we can in conventional manners, as far as just NPK and traditional methodologies. I think introducing this, it's getting people excited again, and it's getting them thinking again. And, you know, that's just kind of the mindset that I look at it from. Just total agronomic package there, where we can move the needle with this.
And I think that's the $1,000,000 question that we probably all have, because I mean, it is, I'm not going to say it's an untouched territory, but it's something new. It's something that we haven't been doing. I mean, we've been so heavy on NP and K for so many years, and now you have this biological and you're wanting to cut back on your NP and K. It's something different. So everybody that's coming into it is having that same question and the same mindset.
This is going to go against everything. I think the best way to use Holganix, especially on some people who have grown cover crops, is use Holganix, then use tie and tillage equipment, then work that in, then go no-till. Like I said, we can't be dogmatic about anything, and I don't think tillage, okay, useful tillage shouldn't be demonized because it's got a use. I know it goes against this whole talk, but I saw that myself with Holganix. The guy used it within the program, worked his cover crop in with tie and tillage equipment. I did say tie to make sure that we recognize I said that, with tie and tillage equipment, then use that. And I think the response he said, I think that gained him a year or two doing it that way, as opposed to conventional. And it goes back to not being dogmatic about it.
Yeah. So I know here at Holganix, we're all about sustainability, and I know we've touched on cover crops a good bit, but Morgan, you and your dad, are y'all doing anything? Are y'all doing cover crops? I mean, I know we soil test, me and you running around with our probes and doing root digs and different tests that we run. Are there any other tools or technologies that y'all are using on y'all's farm to push sustainability?
So I've been on farms that have been using cover crop for 10 years, and they've moved the needle on their organic matter 0.5% if they're lucky. And then they've started using Holganix, and now they're seeing a big change in the tilth of their soil and their organic matter that they've had. I think cover crops are hard sometimes, depending on the year and how you use them. They're a big ask and a big animal to take over. But this is just, Holganix is almost simpler, and it's even better if you use it with a cover crop. But it's simpler because, like Temple said earlier, you can just put it in anything in your farm rotation, just how you do things. Like you can add it to your sprayer, you can do it in furrow. You don't have to change what you do very much for Holganix, but I know it does work pretty good with litter, manure, and cover crops. But I'll let my dad give what he thinks about cover crops here.
We do implement cover crops on a small amount of acres, and again, we tend to tackle our tough acres, the acre that's we can't seem to plow it or rip it or tear it up enough to get it loose. We do what we should do, which is use cover crops. I kind of figured organics and cover crops would go hand in hand in regard to breaking down that cereal rye grain or whatever it is we're going to use, whatever species we're going to use. I figured they would go hand in hand to speed up the process in building soil tilth and organic matter and water holding capacity and fertility. And I still kind of think that, but we're kind of new to this, and it's going to take some more time to really get it figured out.
Oh yeah. Temple, what are you doing anything? I know we've hit cover crops heavy on your part, but is there anything else that you're doing on your farm that might benefit some of our listeners today?
So let me just tell you, so we've done tissue samples for 20 years, since tissue samples first came out, and I kind of maybe worn out my welcome with that. I just feel like I've got a data catalog in there, that just it dates back, and now we've started with sap samples. Sap samples are very different. Kaleb can probably describe them much better than what I can. But so what I can tell you is this: with tissue samples and with sap samples, once we started in with this program, so this year is the first year that I kind of dove in pretty hard on sap samples. But I've been one of the guys that have believed that we need to grow the plant, not the acre. And when I say that, I mean know what the plant needs, put it on it with the requirements that it needs, and try to continue to have that balance, right? We talk about balance in the soils all the time. Is the biological space, is that where it kind of figures it all out for us, where it can help balance the soil and allow that plant to get what it needs when it needs it? I truly believe that the answer to that is absolutely, and here's why. So again, like I said, I'm not putting out like no potassium anymore. I haven't done it for 3 years on my farms. Our potassium levels are fairly decent, so I just want to keep them where they are. So that's what I'm doing. When I added the Holganix program, and then we're starting on these sap samples, what we're finding out with the sap samples is like they're extremely balanced. And I've even got some people that are a little bit perplexed, when they look at my sap samples, like year one, I try it and they're like, well, this is where it's going to be off. It's going to be off on this, and this. And, your assimilation of getting nitrogen into the plant is going to be off. And we come in, and the first one that they take, and they're like, what is going on here? Like, why are your samples balanced? And I said, well, we've strived really hard over the years to try to get this balance, but once we get that soil that's healthy, it kind of lets the plant pick and play on what it needs to get, whether it's we're getting the nutrients out of the soil, whether it's the it's just when the soil comes alive, it changes so many things. So I know this. I know that back to, grow the plant, not the acre. I know that when you get into reproductive stages, when we talk about phosphorus or we talk about potassium, what do we all do as farmers? We put it down up front in front of the planter, and we expect it to be there ready to go in the plant whenever the plant needs it all throughout the season. Well, realizing that about 60% of phosphorus and potassium, like in corn, for example, is needed in the reproductive stages. Well, we put it out up front, and we gave it all that time to get tied up in the soil, right? So that's what the biology does. The biology helps keep it available to the plant. And I think that that's one of the biggest differences that I think that this is making for me. Now, the second part of that is what I've got in testing this year, because Kaleb knows I do things like way outside the box. I do things that I probably shouldn't even do, but I want to see where things, where I get an addition to, or I see some type of failure. So I saved some products back, and I've gotten some products back in now new fresh product. And we went back in on a later wide drop on corn that was V7, V8, and we have gone back in and applied a half gallon of Holganix at that time. Why I did that is because I want to see if I can get more things broke loose in my soil profile at that time, so I can ramp up and get phosphorus and potassium into my plant before that huge slug that I know that I need it in reproduction. And so far what I'm seeing is where I've done this at, there is a significant difference, and you can tell the plant is a much more healthy plant. I mean, we're in brown silk now, so when we look at those plants, it is a little bit different, and I don't know that it's going to test the yield. Again, this is a test that I was doing. I didn't do it on a lot of acres, but I had it in my mind that I wanted to do that because I'm more of what you want to call a spoon feeding guy. We spoon feed everything for what the plant needs from the beginning to the end. The reason we do that is because we're only allowed to use X amount of phosphorus, X amount of potassium, X amount of nitrogen throughout the year. We're only at like a, right now we're at a 0.6 for nitrogen. So we're doing really well. Again, if I can add a product like this late season and I can ramp up and get into a higher yielding situation on our irrigated acres, that's what I'm going to do. So, I mean, you want to talk about some new practices. I'm trying something that's a little bit different. It's a little bit outside the box, but I have a need for something and I want to try to break something loose.
No, that's amazing because I mean, we have the spring and the fall product for row crop farmers, and I mean that's you're putting it down at planting, you're putting it down after harvest to break down that residue. I never even thought about putting it down where you're talking about. So no, I'm very interested, and I would love to hear how that plays out at the end.
Simple,
Josh, you
well, he made a point there. Can you hear me? I'm in the middle of a cornfield right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe.
What's a plant trying to do? Nobody ever asked me. The plant's only trying to do one thing. That's it. It's homeostasis. That's it. That's all a plant's trying to do. It's trying to get back to balance. Everything we throw in, it's exogenous. It has to figure out if it likes it, what's it doing, if it's one of me. And that's what we're doing. And I have a thought that Temple just, let me bring down this canopy here so I quit walking. The Temple just play to. I don't think we can influence corn yield as much as we think we can until it gets to reproductive stages for exactly the reasons that he said. So maybe that is what you're seeing, Temple, with your tissue test. Not too big into sap test because there is utility in tissue. I just think that sap gives us a more live look at it. But digressing, maybe that's what you're seeing, and that's why those tissues are balanced, because it is a homeostatic facilitator. Have you looked into that? Like all a plant's trying to do is get back to balance. That's all it's trying to do. Humic and fulvic, those are homeostatic facilitators. Perhaps the uniqueness and the complexity with how that Holganix is made, maybe with all the different strains and species in it, maybe that's what you're seeing. Maybe it is a homeostatic facilitator, and maybe that's why you'll see that push at the tail end in the R stages of corn. Man, that's a fantastic thought. I'm gonna be interested to see how that turned out.
Well, so far so good. I mean, it is definitely a difference in the health of the plant, and I guess that's the part that's got me the most excited about it. Like when you can visually see something different, going into stages where we know we're going to have insect pressure, we know we're going to have a fungus pressure, we know that plant's getting ready to be under a tremendous amount of stress. One thing to relieve stress better than anything else, give it what it needs to have and give it to it balanced. And I'm hoping that that's what I'm seeing, and I hope it attests to yield.
We need
It
to have
seems to me like just hearing that. I didn't mean to cut somebody off. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good, Josh. Go.
It just seems to me like what I'm hearing, it's allowing the plant to express, and I haven't thought about this at this moment, so I could be just way off base. It's like his phenotypic expression it's able to make through nutrient uptake, because it's like, hey, this is one of our own. It sees it as something that it needs, and that's where the balance is coming from. It's got to be something it's doing through in gene transporters and the transport mechanisms in this plant. I'm thinking this as we're talking, so bear with me. And anybody tells me shut up because I'm stupid, that's fine. I'd agree with that too. But it
No,
seems
it's 100%. You're 100% on board. That's where my whole thought process is. You're right. That's what I
okay.
think too.
Okay. All right. I've yet to view it from that framework there. And you said that, it dawned on me that that's probably what's going on inside that plant.
So Temple, for this is we've done some SAP testing in years past, but Josh has done a lot this year, and you're looking at a lot of our tests, and we're seeing that balanced plan, in West Tennessee and Kentucky, aren't we?
Yeah, we're seeing nitrogen assimilation. You're not seeing a toxic buildup of nitrate or ammonium in a 24-hour photo period. You're like, if you didn't know what someone didn't know what they was looking at, they'd see your NH4 levels or your NO3 levels and be like, holy crap, man, you're low. But that our total nitrates are high. We're just converting it at the end of every 24-hour photo period. The next test I'd like to take is one at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. to see how it builds back up during the day before we convert it. But no, to Kevin's point, yeah, it's doing what it's supposed to do. You can tell that through the SAP test.
We need to reconvene after corn harvest, all of us, and sit down and debrief of Temple's little test plot so we all see how that worked out. So I'm just going to open it up for questions. I know we've went over a lot of things. Here were some questions I kind of had that just wanted to talk to y'all. And I know we've talked about different improvements that we've all seen, but it sounds like weather was one of the main challenges that we've all had this year, which I feel like is what farmers say every year. But is there anything, Morgan, that y'all think, something y'all ran into this year that you jumped over and you could give advice to our listeners about how they can face that?
Well, I am no one to give advice at all, but I've had a lot of customers that got planting way late, so they switched to 100-day corn. We went and scrambled around and find some new corn for them, and they've never planted 100-day corn before, 102-day corn. So I think if you get in a situation like that, maybe look into other options that you've never tried before. And this is Josh. But I don't know if Dad, if you have anything.
Not really. I talked to you about the volume of product I was spraying, the sheer volume of the Holganix added to all the other stuff I'm putting on. And for the first time, I've been in retail fertilizer pretty much my whole life, and I've never mixed a hot load in my life. I've always applied or added chemicals in the field at the sprayer. So one thing we had to do was to mix hot loads here at the farm before we ever loaded the tote truck and headed to the field. It kind of helped.
I gotcha. So one of our listeners actually said, are you guys still using fertilizer in furrow with this product? Will the fertilizer kill the biology? So from a sales rep position, we always say do not tank mix with a fungicide. What do y'all have input wise for this question?
You want to stay away from salt loads. You definitely want to stay away from anything that's high salt loads. Nobody should tell you not to use anything until looking at things, but I wouldn't want to mix with a fungicide either for the same reason fungicide is detrimental to ecto and endomycorrhizae or any fungus for that matter. I mean, this needs to be said. Anytime you use anything with the side, it's going to affect all the phytosanitary bacteria or anything that's good on that leaf surface or the ground that it comes in contact with, and it's going to harm that. But sometimes those are necessary. But the only thing that I think that could really hurt organics is tank mixing with a fungicide or maybe something with a super high salt load that would oxidize those microbes in there and kill them. That would be probably about it.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. So I know, Kaleb, I'm gonna pick on you for a second. Biologicals, organics, there's a lot of skepticism on this, like going down a soil health journey. What was your biggest thing that was holding you back before you got into organics? Like, what was your hardest obstacle to get over?
Well, so many products we tried and failed. This product's been around in turf since 2010, and we used to have a lot of cattle. We vaccinated a lot, and I like to use a modified live virus. So this product's living, the soil's living, and that's what gave me comfort in betting on nature and the whole. It's a complete package. We can you know, Temple, I've used so many products, I didn't have a clue what I was doing at the end of the day. Miss Shackford, I'm sure you're the same. So, you know, one thing we're doing is we're using many less products. Um, you know, just trying to streamline and get down to just a core. You know, instead of we want to be the have a menu of inputs of like Chick-fil-A, not not 38 pages of food to pick from. You know what I'm saying? Just get simpler. So that's one thing that's helped us is trying to just get it narrowed down.
I would agree with everything that Kaleb said. I will say that I'm like him. I've tried every biological thing out there. Now, the one thing that you know, some people are a little bit turned off because your tote comes in and you have a certain window that you need to apply it in. But in my mind, that's the greatest part about it. I'm like Kaleb, like I know that it's living. You get a biological from another company and they're like, oh, it's good forever. Well, that means it's dead.
How's it living? Yeah.
Like that, it's not living. So what am I getting out of it? Like a dead shell? Like I might as well put manure out there or a dead fish out there or whatever. Like I just don't believe in those products. I like the fact that all these products that we get, and I'm sure as Holganix, like logistics is probably a nightmare for you guys, but like you guys must be the logistics kings because I have never ever had a problem getting product on time. It has been phenomenal. The service behind Holganix as a farmer, coming to me has been fantastic. And when you get fresh products in and you can get them on the ground and you can apply them in a timely manner, like it's been great for me. But knowing that it is a product that is alive and I can get it out there and and I haven't had any mixing issues or anything like that. Like that was another problem. Like we were always worried about mixing issues because we don't have time for sprayers to be down or a clogged up planter or whatever. I've literally had no mixing issues whatsoever.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's
That's
simple. Our product is really simple. I mean, all we're bringing to your farm is nature. I walked into one farm, met him for the very first time, and he had a stack of pamphlets, and he said, you're the bug guy for the day." Start talking, and
Really?
yes, and I explained everything and the shelf life and how it needed to stay in the shade, and we got a little spaceship cover all over it, and he was like, "That's made sense more. Just those three things have made sense more than anything else." So
Yeah. Well, that's what like you go to guys and they're like, "Oh, it's just another biological, this and that." Biological has bio in it. Bio. That means life. So when people are pushing biologicals that are sealed on the shelf for years, I don't understand how any farmer can comprehend and like with the good conscience buy those. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm saying if you're wanting to buy a living product, there are ways to know if it's living. Put it under a microscope. Heck, we've been doing it on Kaleb's farm on some of our toast to see how the bugs are moving, just playing around, trying to learn more about stuff. And we've been looking at them under the microscope, and it's really, really neat to look at that thing and understand what it's doing. And it does make, I will say, it makes shipping and deliveries. I mean, you want to get it to them as close to their application day as possible. So that can be very difficult on our end, but overall, it's benefiting the farmer in the long run, and that's all we're trying to do here.
Well, I think it also, you guys have got a great team where you guys are it's kind of one-on-one and you get that relationship with the farmer because like you put in the order and then you know they are constantly reaching out to you. You guys are reaching out. It's like, when do you think your application date is? And you guys are trying to get in front of that window. So that's creating a relationship where you want to make sure that you're getting the most value every time. And that's very important to the farmer because we're spending money on an input that we want to know that we're getting the most that we can possibly get out of it. And you don't get that with everybody else, right? You just get a tote of some product that's sealed or boxes like you're saying, a sealed box, and you're hoping and dreaming that it's going to work. And we have the backup. I feel like I tell everybody that, the biological space is the wild, wild west, right? And it really is. This is the only company, and I've put on, it feels like a million. I'm like Kaleb, like I feel like I put on a million of them and not gotten any results, and I get results with Holganix. But I feel like this is the only one that I kind of feel like it's actually regulated, right? And that's where you get that good feeling from a farmer standpoint.
Alrighty, well, I guess if we don't have any other questions, that was all the questions I had for y'all. I know Josh had to bump off a little early. He had another meeting here at 11, but I want to thank all of y'all for joining me today and sharing your personal inputs and how Holganix has helped y'all on y'all's farms.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Callie.
Yeah,
Thank y'all.
thanks, Caleb.
Thanks, Callie.